Hey everybody, so today I want to go over a couple parts that let you adjust caster on your BMW F8x chassis car. So that's your M2, M3, and M4. And interestingly enough, both of the parts that I have are made by the same company, which is SPL. And so here on my left hand I have the SPL complete tension strut arm for the front. Some people also call it the thrust arm or forward control arm. And in my right hand here I have the SPL tension strut monoball with caster adjustment. So let's take a close look at the SPL tension strut arm first. Now, interestingly enough, this arm is the exact same that they also used for the A90 M3. And I guess, you know, the dimensions are close enough that it'll work for the F8X chassis as well as the E9X chassis. And, you know, you can just see from the construction, it looks, you know, pretty basic. However, there are a few nice little features that this thing has. So, you know, in the center we have this main tube itself of the arm, and this is like a nice lightweight aluminum, I believe. Where this thing kind of differs from other products out there is it uses these clamps at the end to kind of lock down the adjustment instead of jam nuts. A lot of times, you know, other arms like the Megan Racing arms I have in my wagon, they use jam nuts. And well, when you're trying to torque, you know, this main arm against here, you end up, you know, altering the length a little bit, or at least it's very easy to. So this is a nice design where once you've set the length, you can then just tighten these little two blue screws in order to lock down the adjustment mechanism. And you know, SPL says to, you know, install this in the car first and then adjust the length. Obviously, you know, if you're taking your stock arms out, you know, you can try and match the length before you put the arm in. But once this is in the car itself, you can just grab your wrench and then spin this tube right here, and you can see on this right side that the monoball assembly is extending out, and so that's how you can adjust your caster by making this arm longer. Now over here on the left, this is the side that goes into the subframe, right? These two bushing pieces going into this monoball provide the correct amount of space you need. And over here on the right side, this is the side that will bolt up to the control arm. And the way that works is they give you this nice big beefy zinc coated bolt. Now one thing I don't see on this bolt is a grade marking, so I'm not sure you know what strength this bolt is. However, I would say that, you know, you probably don't have to worry about it. And it does look like it's more of a fine thread pitch instead of a coarse one, which means, you know, it can handle higher torque specs. So anyhow, this bolt will go in through this monoball, and then you would take this spacer, if you're just setting it to the stock, if you're doing anything with stock height, put in there. Then this will interface with the knuckle, and then on the bottom side of the knuckle you'll put this washer, if I can get that on, followed by the nut, and then torque that down to the appropriate torque specs. Now SPL also includes these two spacers, and what these would do is these would go between the monoball and this main spacer, which interfaces with the knuckle. And so that will, you know, give this ball joint or monoball a little bit more standoff from the knuckle. And this is so you can correct for your roll center, you know, if you've lowered the car or something. Now that said, unless you have like a race shop or something that can actually calculate the center of gravity, you're really just going to be guessing using these parts. And you know, the ability to find the center of gravity and calculate, you know, where you should change your roll center to, that's pretty rare. So unless you're pretty much, you know, like a dedicated race team or something like that, I really don't think anyone who's just doing casual HPDs or anything like that is going to really be doing this with the calculations and explicit knowledge of knowing, you know, what they're correcting for exactly, or, you know, how many spacers to use. So just something to keep in mind on the practicality of that feature. So that said, you know, buying this arm does give you a monoball at the subframe interface, and that's really like the very common upgrade that a lot of people do is, putting that monoball in that location, because that will dramatically increase the steering feel. And quite frankly, a lot of folks complain about the F2X, F3X, and F8X steering feel, and I really don't think anyone complains about that after putting a monoball over there. Okay, so here we have the SPL caster adjustable monoball assembly, and as you can see here, right, it uses an eccentric spacer for that bolt that holds this monoball to the subframe. And as you rotate this nut, it moves the arm in and out of the subframe, thus giving you your caster adjustment. And with a design like this, your adjustment range is really from here to here, so less overall adjustment than the arm would likely give you, but quite frankly, I'm not sure you really would need a whole lot more than that. Now, I showed you here these spacers with the eccentric part just go in and out just like that. So there is the monoball assembly itself. We can see that they use a snap ring in here to hold it in place, and after you press out the original bushing on your tension strut arm and press this in, well, then you would be using this other snap ring to go on this side to secure it in place. So it's not a very complicated piece. It's really only 4 parts, and I've used a similar piece like this, a caster adjustable monoball, on my F3X wagon, except that one was made by K-Mac. And one of the big differences between this one and that one is this one, you can very clearly see the monoball itself, and it's unsealed. Of course, SPL says the tight tolerances keep out the dirt, grime, and etc. And the K-Mac one that I have on the wagon, well, that one is like fully potted and sealed, so there's really no worry about any dirt, grime, whatever getting into that interface. So it'll be interesting to see how well this one holds up. Of course, the M2 is my weekend fun car, whatever, so it's not really likely to see the off-roading, the dirt, grime, water, rain, whatever that my wagon daily driver sees. Also, if we take a look here at the monoball for the subframe side of the tension strut arm that SPL makes, and the monoball assembly that you would press into your original tension strut, well, you can very clearly see that the monoball size itself on this assembly is larger than that one, so it should overall have more strength. That said, because the spacers are keeping it clamped in the subframe, you're not really seeing any axial load, so nothing moving in this up and down direction like I'm wagging the arm right here. So having a failure mode in that direction probably isn't a very high probability. So really, the arm is going to be seeing a lot more movement this way, which is how these monoballs are really supposed to be operated. So both of these parts come with instructions, which is very good coming from SPL. However, I noticed a very interesting discrepancy between the instructions, and that was how these parts mount to the subframe. Now, with both of these parts, you would be just reusing or getting a new BMW bolt, the same one that holds a stock arm and bushing in there, and using that to secure it. The instructions on the right are for the SPL tension strut arm itself, and it says to tighten that bolt to 74 foot-pounds plus an additional 90 degrees. And on the left side, for just the caster adjustable monoball, it says tighten the bushing nut in the chassis to 81 foot-pounds. Now, the one on the right for the full tension strut arm itself is absolutely wrong if you are reusing your stock bolt. If you get a brand new stock bolt, then yes, you would torque it to the 74 foot-pounds, which is 100 Newton meters, and then an additional 90 degrees because that is a stretch bolt. However, if you are reusing a bolt, you absolutely do not want to rotate that an additional 90 degrees after hitting the initial fastening torque, because the bolt's already been stretched once and then you would be stretching it again, which is a big no-no. So I think the instructions on the caster adjustable monoball on the left, which is telling you to torque it to 81 foot-pounds, which is just a little bit more than the fastening torque, is the right way to go if you are getting if you are reusing that bolt that fastens the tension strut arm to the subframe. So at the end of the day, which of these parts should you choose? Well, if you're just a general garage mechanic, DIY, do this stuff on your own, kind of like I am, without a doubt, this part is easier to install. You don't need any, you just take the old arm out and pop this new one in. You use your ratchets, sockets, torque wrenches, whatever. Pretty common tools. With this one, right, you would obviously have to press out the original bushing on your tension strut arm and then press this in. And well, not as many people have access to presses. I'm fortunate that I do. But most people don't, so this is going to be a little bit more difficult to install for folks. That said, for me personally, which of these am I going to put on the M2? Well, I'll tell you a little bit of a story. Originally I purchased the arm because I said, great, you know what, I get the Monoball in the tension strut to subframe interface, which is what I'm really after. I get my caster adjustment, and if I try and go down that route later, I can play with the roll center adjustment. I also have the SPL lower control arm or wishbone, which also has the roll center adjustment, so I could then do it, because if you only have that feature on one arm, well, you probably don't want to do it on just one. That said, not terribly long ago, there was an incident at Laguna Seca where someone had a brand new set of this exact arm on their A90 M3, and this arm actually failed on them. It snapped in the middle while they were on the main straight and completely trashed the car. Thank God the driver was safe though. And quite frankly, that scared me off a bit and made me want to buy this one, because this just presses straight into the stock arm. And well, the stock arm, instead of being hollow in the middle like this guy is a solid chunk of aluminum. And well, because I've seen that failure, is stronger than this SPL part. So I am going to be using this this caster adjustable monoball in the M2 with my stock arms.